I was brought up in a business family.
You had 3 successful startups. Why did you pick this particular mission?
So, during our lunches, during our vacations, we would end up coming to having a conversation about business, right? We know it now more than ever. It's not the problem of not having things, it's the problem of too many things, right?
Correct. I'm your customer.
Measure what matters.
This is probably the most important mission in humanity. Seldom in your life do you find moments that can change the course of your life. And it was one of those moments where I met Gaurav Sabharwal. And he talked about joy of performing. What is joy of performing? We all go to work because we want to make a living. We want to earn a livelihood. How many of us enjoy or find joy in making a living? Gaurav and my purpose was very much coinciding at this point. We thought there should be joy as we earn a living, as we make our organization successful, as we go to work every day. And that is the core tenet of joy of performing. Gaurav Sabharwal here in Silicon Valley is no simple man. He has rolled out 3 successful startups, but here he is working single-mindedly, and he's got a fantastic team backing this and focusing on increasing the joy of performing. 80 to 85% of employees in an organization do not find engagement because they are burned out. And people like Gaurav are changing this landscape. This is probably the most important mission in humanity. And today, let's all put our heads and hearts together and make this happen. Bring joy of performing into our work, into our lives. So with that, I just want to talk to Gaurav about joy of performing and what this is all about. That before that, there is one term we all need to know, and that is called OKR, Objectives and Key Results. This was the most important framework introduced by Andy Grove of Intel. He is a legend in Silicon Valley, and this was brought to an executional platform by John Doerr, the author of one of the most famous books on startups. It is called Measure What Matters. So the OKR framework started by Andy Grove was taken over by John Doerr and into Google, and today every large organization wants to implement OKR. And Gaurav here today is building a platform to bring joy of performing to work with OKRs. Without further ado, I would like to bring Gaurav Sabharwal on this podcast series. Today is an introductory podcast, but with the upcoming podcast, both Gaurav and I are going to delve deep into every aspect of productivity, work, and joy of performing. So Gaurav, welcome to this amazing podcast series. Truly a privilege and honor to be a partner with you on this amazing mission.
Thank you, Vidya, and that was a great introduction, and it came from your heart, right? Because the topic is such, you end up putting so much of work, anyone ends up putting of so much of labor work into what they do, right? I think 80% of our work week about our life goes into work, right? So how do we make the most of it, and how do we make it aligned with our organization, with our peers, to get to our goals and objectives as an organization, our self-objectives and goals for our own self, I think is very, very important and very, very purposeful driven. So that is what we are solving for.
Absolutely, Gaurav. We spend 80% of our time at workplace with our colleagues, and I'm sure there are better ways to enjoy this important segment, important chapter in our life. With that, I got curious, when I met you in these events and networking events in Silicon Valley. I was very curious. You had 3 successful startups. Why did you pick this particular mission? You could have done anything. And what got you to, back this mission? What's your motivation?
Absolutely. So a little about my background, right? Born, brought up in New Delhi. I moved to the US back in year 2001 for my education, and so I'm a finance background, moved to New York. And really, I was brought up in a business family. So, during our lunches, during our vacations, we would end up coming to having a conversation about business, right? So I got entrepreneurial very early in my life, right? So right after my education, I got into my family business first, and then I got into tech in 2008. And since then, I've been building business one or another, right? And one thing that I realized is that there are few businesses which kind of remain a lifestyle business, and certain businesses really grow and exponentially grow. And the difference between is, people want to do good. So people start a business thinking that they will do extremely well, but there is a point where you hit a glass ceiling, and it is difficult to break that and go beyond that, right? And what I realized is that if a business is backed by a framework and a high-performing team, things can really go far, because otherwise a founder, the management team can only hustle or do things by themselves so far. And without the alignment of a bigger team, it is difficult to go beyond that, right? And I was facing that in my business as well somewhere. And fortunately for me, always surrounded by some good advisors and mentor. And that is when they made me introduced to the OKR framework. So I read the book, Measure What Matters. You were talking about it earlier. And I say there are certain books which you enjoy, certain books inspire you, and certain books kind of change your life, right? And that book actually just changed my life, the way I thought about business, the way I think of growing businesses. And we absorbed it, we put it in our business, got some great results out of it. I think the 3 years when we put OKRs in our business, we grew double digits and more than 30-40% year by year, right? Which was great. And then that is when we concluded that, with our kind of background of product engineering, I had before built up a business in that, and understanding building products. How do we democratize this whole framework and really take it to the last mile to the people, make sure that they get the best benefit out of this framework and get that joy. So joy is the outcome of the performance you do for your own self, for your bigger team, and for your organization as a whole. And once you're aligned from that North Star of the organization and you see the needle moving for the North Star and for your own self, that is when the joy comes in. And that's a long-term joy rather than giving someone just, simple nuggets, which give you instant gratification, but it is not a long-term joy. So that is what we are driving for. And yes, that is where the challenge is, and we are trying to solve that challenge and build a business around that.
Gaurav, that was a fantastic introduction to Joy of Performing. Now let's look at Joy of Performing as a product. If you were to explain this product to a layman, what does it do? What does it look like? And what kind of features are there? I know that OKR is all about taking ambitious, massive goals, breaking them down into key results and key outcomes.
Right.
So how would this platform be describable? What is your core offering?
Sure. I mean, the core offering is thinking about right from the direction, right? How do you set that one direction, which is clear to the organization? How you cascade that down to your teams, to your people, so that people are aligned, they can collaborate and work together on that focus on that common goal, rather than working in a silo. You end up working in silos a lot, then what I say is you're on a stationary treadmill, you're running a lot, but you're not really moving forward, right? So you don't want to be in that position. And then once you have those OKRs, how do you go and create those actions or initiatives which will move the needle on those OKRs, right? Because you want to, what we say is that we at JOP like to take your strategy and go take it to the execution, because the magic is in the execution, right? And that is what we enable with our platform. And while you're doing that, you want to make sure that people are still at the center of the stage, because if people are not motivated, they are not engaged, there is no culture, and things kind of die down by itself. People don't adopt anything, right?
Right.
And then with that, slicing, dicing data in understanding what is right for my business and making those business decision. There is a concept of retrospect in OKRs, which is, middle of the quarter, end of the quarter. You can really take a pit stop and figure out what is happening in your business, learn from it, and then move on. So that is all we have kind of done it very simply on the product for people to absorb it, adopt it, use it as a discipline, the way they work in their business, and kind of get the most out of their time and their productivity.
In your webinars on Joy of Performing, you talk about 3 core tenets, that is culture, strategy, and growth in a company. These are very intangible terms, and I must congratulate you on building a platform that can put numbers on this.
Sure.
This is really tough business to be in, and how do you do it, honestly?
Absolutely. So the way we look at performance is that performance is just not for people. It starts with business performance, then going into people performance. So something which is more continuous, something which enables performance in your organization is what we wanted to bring on, rather than having something which is a laggard way of performance review, which happens once in 6 months and a year, and you can't really go back in time and do anything about it, right?
Right.
If you think about it, the way we look at it, there are 3 more important aspects. Is performance, which is both business and people, which is continuous performance. Then creating that culture. Culture is nothing but behavior changes.
Correct.
And the behavior comes from the discipline. And the discipline comes from something which is more tangible in your organization. People can go in to figure out what they do in their meetings, how do they do their check-ins. So that discipline then comes into behavior change, then comes into the culture, right? And that is what we're preparing.
This reminds me of a very amazing management framework called the Nudge framework. Nudge framework says don't design people, don't design business, design a system which creates a nudge for people to perform. So you're designing a system, people come and go, systems live forever. So this system is going to nudge people to align with the goals of the organization. That is such a fantastic idea.
Right. Very interesting you actually said that, Vidya, because with the AI capability that we are bringing on to the platform, we're actually creating an assistance for people in their whole execution journey. So at any point of time, the system would be able to nudge and get the best out of them. If things are not moving, what could it be? How can they come together? How can they have one-on-one feedback? So all of that is happening within the product for people to get the assistance in the whole execution of it.
Fantastic. This whole week I've been gaga about Gen AI, and Apple just released its new goggles and Gen AI like features for Siri, and they're all over the news this week. Last week it was OpenAI, before that Microsoft and Bard from Google. This is like such a phenomenal moment for you to bring it into productivity and process frameworks and nudging behavior. This is amazing. On that thought, I would like to ask you, you want to introduce this product in an organization. To me, I reviewed a lot of literature on OKRs and I used your platform.
Sure.
I'm your customer. Let me put it that way. And I can confidently say it nudged me to achieve my goals. So that's why we're here. Now, how do you introduce this in any large organization? Let's say I go to a Cisco or Google. These are successful case studies. They've done OKRs very successfully in these organizations. How do you introduce them? Do you sell them the software first and send the training specialist, or do you slowly warm them up with a consultant and then sell the software? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take one step back, right? I want to say that OKR as a framework or performance is needed in any business, any scale size.
Right.
Whether you're doing a small business with 20 people or a medium-sized business which is, let's say, 200, 500 people, or a large organization which has got thousands and thousands of people, right? Efficiency and productivity is required at every stage, at every scale. And I think we know it now more than ever, right? In the last 6 months, that's the flavor. keeping it efficient, keeping it productive is what everybody is striving for. So, however, the complexity changes when you go from a small to a medium to a large business, and thus the requirement of what the product can do and how the product should initiate also changes with that. So the way we look at it is that if it is a small organization, a DIY,
do it yourself.
Absolutely, a whole DIY platform where someone goes in, the generative AI kind of helps them to build their OKRs. They can get understanding of what are the initiatives they have different use cases of initiatives that they should be working on, and they can start with the whole process immediately, right? And kind of they learn as they go along, right? You don't need to be perfect the first day. However, if you go into medium and large businesses, the complexity is more. They have a lot of threads which are kind of binding them together, and that is where if they are not on that framework or not understanding the OKR framework before, they need some hand holding. And what we have done is we have created an ecosystem of consultants that we bring, and depending on the size of the organization, where they are at that point of time, and what is the complexity in their business, those consultants will handhold them, make them go through this whole onboarding. And once they are onboarded on the product, then it's rinse and repeat, because then it's a discipline of going from one quarter to another, and then just kind of making it better as you go along. One thing I do want to say that we have figured that companies who are able to successfully implement OKRs usually have someone as a champion within their organization, right? Somebody who's really taking that leadership role in order for them to understand where the company objectives are, and then how do you cascade them down into different teams and align them to bring about the momentum that you need for the efficiency in the business. So that is what we've seen.
Fantastic. So, there are, I believe, a few products like yours in this space. And it looks like you're selling to C-level execs or slightly lower than them, the management tier. And, this product can be sold to small, medium and large businesses. Where are you niching at? What is your unique proposition? What particular market are you targeting?
Yeah, I think you can slice and dice the market in a few different ways. SMB, mid, large. You can also focus on different geographies. Within the space also, there are people who are using this platform but working on, let's say, Excel or Google Sheets, not using any software. People who are using a software but not using it to the best of their possibility. So the way we look at it right now is we want to focus mostly on the mid-market at this point of time, the SMBs and the mid-market, and then go towards the large enterprises maybe in the next 6 to 12 months. That is what we're looking at. As a matter of fact, we're already working with companies which are, let's say, about 1,000 to 10,000 employees. And they are using it on the corporate level. It also is used sometimes in a team, and when the team aligns with that and they get results, then you have a possibility of land and expand as well, right? So that's what we are looking at. In terms of how the competition landscape is, yes, like anything else in this world today, this is not really a blue ocean, and there are people in there and they're trying to solve that problem. However, the way we look at it is that, we are at the intersection of performance and people. And I think that is where the magic happens. You cannot silo performance and be obsessed about performance and ignore people.
Absolutely.
Or just be focused too much on the people side of it and do not worry about your matrix, right? So it's that intersection that we are working on, is what our belief and take is to solve this problem. Secondly, we want to have our product be extremely simple to use. People are already kind of drained out with all the work that We don't want them to have an extra layer of things which they need to add to their basic work. So we want it to be extremely intuitive and simple to use. Third, I think AI today is or going to be a commodity, right?
Exactly.
So I wouldn't call it like a big deal when you're using AI. But I think understanding the use cases of where the AI can be used and make it simpler for your users and make the experience much better is where the art is today, right? And that is where we're spending a lot of time understanding, working with our engineers, working with our specialists as to where and how can we take that experience of the product to the users.
Now, I used your product a couple of days ago, and there were so many follow-up messages from your team, and they ensured that I'm on track and I'm not losing focus. So I think the way your product is designed is it enables the employee or the user to focus on the key priorities at the right time.
Absolutely. I think we're living in the world where it's not the problem of not having things, it's the problem of too many things, right?
Correct. You have too many things.
Yes. So how do you cut the noise and how do you focus on things that really makes a difference and measure what matters? Is what the whole product is all about.
So in Silicon Valley today, the hottest B2B SaaS startups who've had great exits, they're all talking about product-led growth and experience-led growth. They're talking about challenges, product teams working with customer success teams, and just that these teams are so large, they have so many marketing people, so many sales people. Something like this tool, what can it do in a space like this?
Yeah, I think it's very easy for companies to think about themselves as units, like a sales and a customer success and a marketing.
Right.
And people can go in, do their best in that unit, not thinking that how are they collaborating for the common goal and is it really doing what it needs to do for the business or not, And we've seen that many times in larger, medium-sized organization.
Right.
So I think what this product does, it kind of keeps the focus at the common goal and makes them to work together, not go into that silo, not go into that isolation, but work together to make sure that, you really discuss on the problems which are to be focused on, you find a solution, you move on, solve that problem, move on, and have a very outcome-driven approach rather than a busy approach, what is it that you're doing and what is the outcome of that? And sometimes people tend to get into their comfort zone where they do not take that risk, and this whole thing makes them aspirational because now that what I'm doing is with you, and if we are working together, how can we aspire for a bigger growth or a bigger goal that we need to achieve? So that is what it does.
So if you were to give me an example, you can name your client or anonymize. Is there like a tangible example, like which you said, this is doing it for them? This is like working, oh man, I've designed a good product. Was there a moment like that?
Absolutely. So I wouldn't take a name of the customer, but it's a SaaS platform or a SaaS business which raised about Series B. I think it's got about 150 odd people. And when they started with us a year back, I think the problem that they were having is that they had the product market fit and they wanted to grow and expand, their business quite exponentially. And they were hiring, but when they were hiring, they realized that, the whole problem was that what do they do with people, and how, when they bring in those people, how do they minimize the amount of time that these people need for them to become a part of the culture and start delivering and what they need to do for the business, right? When we put in JOP and they started working with the whole OKR framework, I think what changed for them in the third, fourth quarter is that the moment somebody would come in the team, they would from the first day know what is the focus of the business, what are the objectives that they are focusing on, and when they go into their teams, what is the team doing, why is it doing, and what is the impact it is happening on the business, right? So it was very crystal clear than waiting for, let's say, 1-2 quarters just to figure out what is happening for their business. And with that, their business grew more than, I think, 3 digits, 100% or so, quarter by quarter.
Wow.
For some time, just because I think the momentum that they needed
Yes.
came about from the people working together,
Right.
and that is what they did for that business. And I think that was a great case study for us, just because it gave us the confidence
Yeah.
that yes, this kind of a framework can work and bring about the results that people need for it.
Absolutely. And many large corporations are raving about the momentum the OKR framework is creating. And, there you are. We have a real life case study. So, Gaurav, with so much happening at, Joy of Performing, your company, where is Joy of Performing headed? What's ahead on the road for you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think working with an OKR framework, we need to be very clear on our OKRs as well. We are still early in the game. So, we went 6 quarters live. We've got about 30 odd customers which are working and giving us some great feedback on the product that we have. We went live on web, mobile, so all those platforms are working now. I think by the end of the year 2023, what we want to do is make sure that we are helping at least 100 plus customers. That is the first goal we want to reach. We want to be sure that every time we bring in a customer to us, we make a success out of that. Every customer has to be successful. We are a very customer-centric organization. And while we do that, we want to make sure that we have the right kind of people, whether our team, our investors, and we don't even call them investors, we actually call them believers, because we are so passionate about this space that we want to have the right people, be a part of this journey. People who believe that performance is important, performance is something which needs to be given its due credit. And and what we are doing is to be taken ahead. So that's the kind of people that we are trying to bring into our business, both on the people side as well as the let's say believers or the investor side, and keep on adding value to the product that we are building up, helping to distribute it more and more as we go along, and solving this problem that we have set out for, which is strategy to execution, and making sure that we enable the best possible performance for business and people.
So much on the power of belief, going from strategy to execution. So that is Joy of Performing for you. And here we have Gaurav Sabharwal. On a wrap-up note, Gaurav, what do you have to say? I know we have many more episodes of this amazing podcast series coming up. Today we just had an introductory session talking about what is Joy of Performing and why OKRs are so key to this whole idea of performance. So Gaurav, what's your parting note to the listeners?
First I want to thank you, Vidya. I think we need believers like yourself to come forward and be the voice for what we are solving for. It's extremely important we do that. Second, I want to just say that keep a tab on what we bring on in the future months as well. I think we're going to deep dive into every module of what needs to be done for the performance-driven organization. I think that's about it. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you're doing for this purpose.
Thanks, Gaurav. And to you all listeners, there's one key takeaway from my end as well. After listening to Gaurav, write down your goals, however big or small. The more you write and the more you see, the clearer they become and they happen, and you will experience joy of performing.
I'll add on something to that, Vidya. I know of a friend who actually does his own personal OKRs.
Gosh.
And they do OKRs for their married life, for their kids.
Oh my God.
And it's just beautiful of how, they think about their family and how they think it is adding value to them. So you're absolutely right. Not just for your business, but for your own self. Do it. You will see a great, amazing world that is going to open up for you. And happy to help. Please reach out if we can be of any help to any one of our listeners or anyone who's listening here. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gaurav. On that note, thank you for listening to this amazing podcast session. I had a wonderful time, and we hope to bring many more such episodes to you.